Hi, AJ Hartley here, novelist, Shakespeare professor, fan of lots of stuff, but I'm speaking today as a novelist. And my US publisher, Falstaff, is releasing a new edition, a platinum special collector's edition of my first three thrillers. It's called Past Is Prologue. It will come out as a hardcover, limited to 100 copies, numbered and signed. This is, as I say, a collector's edition. It contains The Mask of Atreus, On the Fifth Day, and What Time Devours, my first three thrillers that were originally published by Penguin Berkeley 20 years ago. I just wanted to say that this is really exciting for me. These are really great, handsome editions. The publisher has done some of these before for other authors. So I kind of know what they're like. I don't have them yet because the pre-order has just gone up. They will sell out. So if you're interested, you should jump on it. They will release at the end of May, which is Con Carolinas. And that's when they'll be shipped. And if you order now, I think you get free shipping. The books are $100, but as I say, they're special collector's editions. They're black, glossy hardcovers. They're signed and numbered, and you're getting basically almost 1,000 pages for that money. So they're sort of a special thing. They're beautiful books, nice heft. You know, I love a book that has weight to it. It's called Past Is Prologue, which I like as a title for a couple of reasons. Partly because it's my past. These are, as I mentioned, my first thrillers. And the way that these sort of lay out the rest of my career. So Past Is Prologue in that sense. Past Is Prologue, of course, is a line from Shakespeare's The Tempest. But Past Is Prologue is also relevant because these are thrillers which are both contemporary and rooted in the past, the distant past in many cases. If you like things like The Da Vinci Code or books by Steve Barry, Doug Preston and Lincoln Child, books that have a kind of big ideas behind them but have roots in archaeology and history, and people are sort of running around from place to place and hopping from country to country and site to site, trying to piece together the puzzle pieces. That's what these kind of books are. After the advent of the Da Vinci Code, there was a sort of spate of these kind of books in the first decade of the 2000s. And then they kind of disappeared. And I still have a real soft spot for these because I came to this genre because this is the stuff that I loved. I have always been interested in history and archaeology and have done work in those areas. And of course, I'm a scholar and academic, so that kind of stuff always spoke to me. But also I'm a populist, a fiction reader and writer. And this was a way to sort of grapple with some of those kind of big historical, cultural ideas in a way which is fun and exciting and gripping, I hope. Mask of Atreus centers on Deborah Miller, who's a museum curator in Atlanta, and her mentor is killed, and a room full of previously unknown Mycenaean artifacts is discovered. And the story is about her trying to figure out how and why he died and who killed him, and track the root of this cache of stuff that goes back to, I don't want to say too much, but it connects the Second World War and the Trojan War. So that's kind of cool, right? And, when I was writing these books, I did a lot of trips. I went to Greece. I went, in that case, also to Germany and Russia to do the research, which became central to those stories. The second one is called On the Fifth Day. Mask of Atreus hit the USA Today bestseller list. On the Fifth Day was my first New York Times bestseller. And it grapples with ideas about Catholicism and evolution, but it's also rooted in, part of it takes place in Chicago, part of it takes place in southern Italy. There's a story that I often tell about being led by somebody, an urban spelunker in Naples, who took me into an underground plague grave called the Fontanelle Cemetery, where as you go in, it's just stacked skulls and long bones all the way to the roof. 20,000 skeletons, I think, are in there. And that was a trip that I did as part of my research for On the Fifth Day, which also goes to Japan, of course, which I already knew, and the Philippines. And, you know, part of the fun of these books is the way that they hop around and, you know, throw certain versions of reality to the winds and in the pursuit of the mystery. And the third one, which was in some ways my most personal book to date when I wrote it, is called What Time Devours, and it's about the apparent existence of a lost Shakespeare play called Love's Labour's Won. We have Love's Labour's Lost, of course, but we have decent evidence to suggest that not only did Love's Labour's Won exist, it was actually printed and published and has simply been lost for whatever reason. And so the book is, at least in part, about what this play might have been and what it is and what might happen if it has actually survived. And it connects to the First World War and to champagne production and to all kinds of stuff, including some quite personal stuff. Because ultimately, all of these books, I think, are also, for all the fun and thrills of them, they're all meditations on time, the passage of time, and therefore on mortality. So they're layered with an element of melancholy that underlies a lot of the action and things like that, which is, you know, about as Shakespearean as I get. So, as I say, the collection is called Past Is Prologue, the platinum edition of my first 3 thrillers. It's available only from the publisher, Falstaff Books. I will include their Shopify address in the description of this video. You cannot buy them on Amazon or in bookstores. You can only buy them direct from the publisher or from me if I have them at conventions and such. This is, as I say, it's a collector's edition. It's not a mainstream release. They're only available within the US, I'm afraid, because, I not long ago had to send a big book, one of the Secret Machines books, to a friend in the UK, and it cost a fortune because there is no print rate for overseas shipping, unfortunately, anymore. So, so they're not shipping overseas. So this is a US release only. But I think, if you like these kind of stories, if you're a fan of my stuff, then this is a neat addition to your bookshelf. And I hope you get to check it out, and I hope you like it. And that's all I'm going to say. As ever, please like, comment, subscribe, check out my Patreon page. Thank you, as ever, to my patrons. Check out my books, including now, of course, the platinum edition of my thrillers called Past Is Prologue. That's all. Check out my own Dashery store for t-shirts and things like that. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.